agreement related to, or the prisons will provide medical services for these inmates. They don't provide that nursing, but if they deserve, or need anything, they need a dentist, they go out to the prison for the prison dentist. If they need, have anything more extensive than the sick call would handle, they go out to the.
Well, but
In an emergency room visit.
Yeah,
Yeah, right away.
But John, maybe what you do is we limit Dr. Meadows' activities to the county population only, and so when you know, if they can make a nurse available, they make the doctor that oversees it also available for the state side, so you create a wall there so you don't have that problem. And I think Dr. Meadows probably would be appreciative if he only had to deal with the county side.
And we could partition it that way. The only difficulty is now we have to lean back on them to say, in addition to the 10 hours of nursing a day, now you, CDC, are going to have to provide the 5 hours of sick call coverage. So we're going back at that, and of course,
Well,
What's,
I think that, I think that's a better alternative, because the more they maintain responsibility for their health care obligations instead of shifting it on to us, the better for us and better for them.
yes.
Okay, thanks, we're gonna wrap this up. While
Thank
you're
you.
there, Dean, let's take up H2.
88 grand.
oh, the 88 grand, I don't have that with me. but,
Okay, let me just, so H2 is a grant, here you want for the,
Yeah, it's a narcotics task force grant. We've received it for a number of years. It's a local partnership. We have an officer from the Sheriff's Office, Police Department. DA prosecutes the cases, but there are representatives from Health and Social Services, public. DA. Anyways, there's a group of local officials that get together and agree on the plan each year within the grant parameters. And each year we have to get that grant application approved by our Board of Supervisors, and that's what this item is.
any questions of, board members?
So this is kind of ongoing, you say?
It is ongoing. Yes, and this next year it's going to be revamped. Sitting on the chairing actually committee down in Sacramento, co-chairing, where we're deciding on the future of this grant program and how these are going to be allocated. So it's dicey. I'm doing my best to try to keep it tiered where small counties can get a fair share for law enforcement services. It's probably not, I can tell you right now, it's not going to be geared towards drug abuse anymore. It's probably going to be geared towards gangs of violent crime in future years. But yes, this is basically what we've been doing for a number of years, focusing on drug enforcement.
Any, you know, motion?
I'll second.
Okay, before we take a vote, is anybody from the public that would like to, say anything on this issue? Okay, if not, it's been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Dean, I think in the future too, I'd like to see Richard. Maybe going forward, it'd be nice to, if any business with the sheriff, we could put at 10 o'clock time certain, and then if it's a study deals, we do at 1 o'clock, that way time certain.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's jump back over to our time certain, and we'll go to C1, our public hearing with planning and building services.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors. So today we are conducting a public hearing for the 2014-2015 State of California Department of Housing and Community Development Block Grant Program. The department is recommending for the board to conduct a public hearing to discuss possible applications for funding under the fiscal year 2014-2015 state CDBG program and to solicit citizen input on possible activities to be included in such applications. The Notice of Funding Availability, or better known as the NOFA, was released on January 6th of 2014 with an application deadline of April 11th of 2014. The maximum grant application amount is $2 million, and the Economic Development Over-the-Counter allocation, which does require a separate application, has a maximum limit of $3 million per year with a $6 million for every 2-year maximum amount. The board letter does list each of the eligible activities and maximum application amounts, and I can go through those if you'd like. But there are several different places that we could put the funding towards if you choose to go forward with an application. The department does anticipate submitting application under the NOFA, provided 50% of the funds awarded under the 2011-2012 CDBG grant, which is reported on our GNL update, is expended by April 11th of 2014. The purpose of this public hearing is to give citizens and the board an opportunity to make their comments known regarding what types of eligible activities they believe the county should apply for under the state CDBG program. And a separate public hearing will be held to discuss and approve the application prior to submittal to the state. As of today, the department has received 4 possible application inquiries. The first is from Lassen Senior Services to complete building renovations, which is an eligible activity under public facilities. The second is from Levitt Lake Community Service Districts to complete various updates to their sewer infrastructure, which is an eligible activity under public improvements. The third is from Ronald McDonald House to complete building renovations under public facilities. And the fourth is from Health and Human Services to complete building renovations to the one-stop buildings under public facilities. The department has requested that each of these entities be present today in order to make their requests known to the Board of Supervisors. And are there any questions? If not, I'd like to give it up to the applicants that are here. Yes.
Okay, first, I just was remiss with, and I didn't state, we opened this public hearing at 11:23, and, so now we'll go for any questions of the board members on the item.
These grants are countywide this time, right? The CDBG grants and all that stuff.
They are
'Cause we
countywide.
restricted them last time to Herlong and Doyle, and I think that hurt our cause.
Correct, but the reason for that was when you do a target area, typically it goes off of eligibility. And
Okay.
so if we can prove that an area is meeting more of the grant parameters, then it's more of a competitive grant, and then we're more likely to get funded.
I got it.
Any other questions?
Now, can we, I'm just thinking of going over here to Root Street, the new supervisor's quarters and whatnot, I mean, would any of that apply to this, or?
It does not, we actually looked into it, and government buildings that provide standard governmental operations are not an eligible CDBG activity. So we did look into that.
Very good thinking.
Okay, are there any questions from the public on the presentation by staff?
I'd like to make a presentation on behalf of Levitt Lake. Is that appropriate?
Sure.
All right, my name's Ed Anderson. I'm an engineer from Chico. I've been the private consultant for about 47 years, and I've represented several districts up in Lassen and Dumas County for the last 40 years. And I happen to be representing the Levitt Lake CSD. I've helped them with, they put in a 200,000 gallon storage tank. They put in a new lift station. They've recently installed water meters. And most recently, they've been making some improvements to the water treatment plant. And Levitt Lake has essentially been pulling itself up by its bootstraps. For the last 10 years, they've been doing things that most communities haven't been able to do. And they subscribe to that principle that if you want something done, do it. Don't wait for somebody to give you a handout. So what happened was that the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board issued them an edict last year to improve their wastewater treatment plant. They had some violations there. Unfortunately, the infrastructure in that community has deteriorated in the last 40 years. Most of it was installed by a developer who probably didn't have longevity in the back of his mind when he put it in the first place. And their wastewater treatment plant is a prime example of how regulations continue to change. And unless you stay up with them, you're going to be behind, you're going to get in violation. So what worked 40 years ago, not necessarily working today. So after they got cited, they have diligently been working on their own, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, so to speak, making the improvements, satisfying the regional board. But with that said, they've depleted their reserves, what little I had. What they did is they purchased 10 surplus aerators from the prison. They've already retrofitted one of them and put it in their ponds. They have waste stabilization ponds. They drained one of the ponds, cleaned it, stockpiled the sludge. They'll be delivering it to Lovelock, hopefully, if they can find the funding. They put riprap around one of the ponds, and they've graded and cleaned the levees. Now, what they've done is great. However, it's not solved all their problems. They're still in violation. But they are literally broke. They've got a little funding from the United States Department of Agriculture to help replenish their reserves that they've expended. I just can't express enough how much respect and admiration I've had for these folks. They have 258 connections, 258 residences in that little district. And they have relied on their ingenuity and what I'd like to call stick-to-itism to get things done over the last 10 years. Amazing. I have prepared a preliminary cost estimate I'd like to pass out if you'd like to see some of what I've proposed that they do to clean up their wastewater treatment plant, get the state off of the, you know what. The district manager, Kathy Seaborn, is here, and her secretary and one of the directors. She might be able to explain the financial dilemma they have. But these improvements that I've shown on that cost estimate will essentially get them out of violation and clean up a facility that's way overdue. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I don't know.
I'm up here.
Oh,
Hi, I'm Kathy Seaborn. I'm the manager of Levitt Lake Community Services District. I started working there in the year 2000. We literally inherited a system that was falling apart. You couldn't walk into our pump room of our fresh water without a raincoat. So many pipes were leaking. We had an old wooden reservoir that often you found creepy critters floating around in. I mean, it was by no means up to standards. Luckily, I had a board of directors when I went to them and I said, this is not acceptable. I can't work here under these conditions. So we started applying for funding. We got the funding, we tore down the reservoir, we built a water tank. Unfortunately, everything else was falling apart. So our next thing was we were spending daily 2 or 3 times at one of our sewer lift stations. Thousands of dollars were going down that lift station. Pumps were burning up. People could not understand why they couldn't flush everything under the sun. So again, we went begging and we got our new lift station. It's saving us tremendously. We were spending about $36,000 a year in repairs and manpower. Right now we're spending $8,000 in a payment. So we did save there. But then the state of California Public Health came along and said by a certain year, everyone was going to have to go to metered water facilities. So we immediately jumped on the bandwagon, got funding, partial grant, partial loan, and we have our water meters. So we have met that deadline before it's ever going to approach us. Unfortunately, then along comes Lassen. And they say, well, you have violations upon violations. Our sewage ponds had never been cleaned in the 40 years that they've been in operation. We did not have the money to remove the sludge, drain these ponds, and equip them with aeration like they should have been originally. But it was that versus getting a $1,000 a day fine from Lassen, myself included personally, my board members, and the district as a whole. So after discussing it with the board, we decided, well, you know, we've got to do something. So we started using our reserves to meet the deadline for Lassen. Right now, we are broke. We have very little left in the bank. But they're still wanting more. We have to retrofit more aerators with 10 horsepower pumps. Right now, we got them from the prison, but they have 40 horsepower, which would, way too big for our ponds. We have to do that, and we have to extend more electrical lines. We are going to be getting, hopefully, we've applied for grant from USDA. Hopefully that will come through to help us do some of that, but it's still going to leave us in a lurch. Our ponds are completely overgrown with weeds. And we've tried and tried to keep them down. And I brought some pictures for you. But we need to remove all of them, put weed barrier down, and then put riprap around. This will also help in Mother Nature's working of the ponds, because now the weeds are stopping the wind, the motion, to get air within the ponds. But I'd like to show you what we have done up here. Kind of give you an idea. And if it wasn't for my maintenance operator, Jaime Victoria, he's the most ingenious person that I've ever met. He even made aerators trying to get us in compliance out of a boat dock thing and some sewage pumps and PVC pipe. It just wasn't enough, so we have to continue. We ran the one aerator we have in operation. We ran it for 1 month. For the first time in years, we met regulations from Lassen and was able to release some water. So that is the key, cleaning out these ponds and getting the electricity to them to run the aerators. We also have another lift station that is ancient, and it needs upgrades and repairs. It's to the point where it could be dangerous. So we've got that on the agenda to try to plan for. And then in our main well, our drinking water well, that pump and motor has been in there since 1988. Every day when we get through a day without that pump going out, we just thank our lucky stars. It's going to cost around $20,000 to replace that pump. We just don't have it. But if it goes out, then we'd have to call the Office of Emergency Services to bring our district water, because we have no other way to get it there. Our second pump only pumps about 100 gallons a minute, which would not do it all. There's several things in our district like this. It's old, it's deteriorating. It was neglected through all those years. The upkeep was not done properly. And so if we could be considered for funding, we would greatly appreciate it and make our district all that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for that information.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do, and this is probably for Ed. I see in your trucking to landfill, is that the remaining sewage ponds that need to be excavated, and that's the total cost of the project, $44,000? That seems awful light for trucking solid waste.
Well, it's going to be, it's dried up. Essentially,
Oh, okay,
it's not a liquid, look, the sludge might be a foot when you take it out, but when it dries, it might only be an inch thick.
Okay.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for staff, for Jenna.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my next.
So, it says here, on the back page, the department anticipates submitting an application under NOPA. It says here, provided 50% of the funds awarded under the 2012 NOPA are expended by April 11, 2014. So how are we doing on that? Have we met that already, or?
We have not, so at this point we are not eligible to apply, but we have 2 business loans that are fairly large and are in the process of going to our loan committee, and if they are approved and if the funds are expended before April 11th, we will be eligible. So this public hearing is in essence to give the public and the Board of Supervisors the opportunity to start thinking about what type of application they want to be able to submit. If we are deemed eligible. If not, then the NOFA will be released in 2015-16, about the same time of the year next year. But it also, Kathy has contacted me for several years, and so has Vicki Flake from Ronald McDonald House, and also Penny Arts from Lassen Senior Services. They have also contacted us in regards to these fundings, so we wanted to bring this. This public hearing has to be done 45 days before grant submittal, so it's in essence putting it out there and getting it done just in case if we do become eligible.
So if we don't expend those funds within 60 days, then these other projects can't be helped with?
Not this year, correct.
Yeah, so what are the, how likely will we expend those
I'm working
funds?
on it as hard as I can. We just got a notice from the state that their underwriting is complete on one of the loans. We are scheduling our loan committee for the end of the month, so we're trying to work it out.
Of the $583,909 that was awarded to the county in 2012, how much have you been able to utilize or expend?
We haven't expended any of it yet, but if those loan applications are approved, we'll have about $250,000 expended. Actually, in excess of $250,000.
Because it says you need to submit
50%, correct. And then we will also, one of our RFPs will also be ready to go out for, at the state for review to clear conditions, and then we will have spent on one of our planning and technical assistance grants. So we're working hard on it.
Okay. Could we get maybe like every, can we get a little update weekly? Because I mean, that's quite a.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah, important for these people.
The one that you're talking about, planning and technical assistance grants, which grant is waiting state review or approval?
It is the permanent housing feasibility analysis in order to, with housing tools. So we brought, back in December, I believe, or November of last year, it was the proposal award. We have to clear conditions with the state of California in order to continue to move forward, and they were looking at our procurement, making sure it was done correctly. And then once we receive the clearance from the state, we can go forward with the contract, bring it to board for approval, and then they can start completing the plan, and we'll be.
Okay, well, thank you. Good luck with that. We got a lot of folks riding on you.
Yes.
Not to put any pressure on you.
58 days.
Are we going to hear from the other?
Yes,
yeah.
we do have other
Yeah.
individuals here to speak on
Thanks.
this.
If there's anyone, yeah.
I'm Penny Arts from Lassen Senior Services, and if this gets approved by the board, then we will be applying for some money because we need desperately to upgrade our heating system and make tremendous improvements to our building, to our facility, and our property. Currently, our building goes from, is paneled on the outside, and it goes from a brown to a faded blue, as if you're going into the sunset. And since it is for seniors, I would prefer that they have a happier place to go to than one that encourages a settlement of life. So anyway, I have
That vinyl siding was installed in the city. That was kind of a
What a politician.
that was kind of a new thing, and I don't think they figured out that all the stuff they do with it. So that vinyl has been there for 30 years.
Right, and also we've had some leaks in our roof, so our roof needs upgrading. Apparently we have a lot of screws loose in our roof. And our heating system, by the way, I estimate for $31,000. But when you look at the whole picture, our building is not the most inviting building that it could be. It is on the inside, but it's not on the outside. Our parking lot is falling apart, and there are things that we need to consider to make improvements. And if we get this, then we will be one that will apply, without the humor.
Thank you. Okay, there was another applicant from the Ronald McDonald.
Yes, but they were unable to attend, and I did not receive the letter before.
Okay. So, is there anyone else?
You know, I just talked to Jenna yesterday because Pete and I have been traveling around the county for the last week or so, taking a look at facilities, particularly for their one-stops. And we really need to do some work on the one in Westwood. It's actually, the building's in fairly good shape, but it needs remodeling on the inside. We need to have office space and a variety of improvements there. And then at this point, we don't know where we're going with her long. But I can't possibly compete with Penny's needs, so, but definitely we will submit something for consideration. But my feeling is that we will probably need to move faster than this process is going to move. But the way we get our other projects done, it probably would work out just fine, 2-3 years. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing at 11:48 and bring it back, and so basically, it's a pleasure of the board to go forward with the funding.
And I do want to note that the public facilities, since we do have 3 possible applications, there can only be one project. So the department will work with each one of them to determine eligibility and which one we believe will be scoring higher. If we are able to apply, all 3 of them will be brought back to the board with some type of a scoring criteria in order for you to choose which one you want to be included in the application.
I'd like to make a motion to pursue this.
I don't think the action request, it wasn't for a motion, just to give input.
I think the motion will come for April 11th.
Correct.
But I would also like to urge staff to really get on this. I mean, there's some real need out there, and it's real important to some of these folks to get this taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. Okay, there's quite a real possibility we're not gonna finish before lunch, but I would like to jump, I've seen some people here from the audience for a long time now, for the Honey Lake Conservation District, the water master fees H5. I'd like to quickly take that up and see how we're doing for time. So, would somebody like to give that intro? Would you like to?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was on last meeting's agenda as well. Supervisor Hammond and Wassick asked that we place it on again. Mr. Trask wasn't able to attend the prior meeting and had asked to be able to address the issue. So maybe I'll let Mr. Trask.
Before, and I would just like to say that, yeah, we went over this at length. Unfortunately, you know, what couldn't make that meeting or weren't aware of it. The auditor, I don't see, but gave an explanation, and there has been a lot of dialogue, so I want you to have your opportunity to say what you need to say, but at the same time, I don't think we want to afford, you know, an hour of discussion on it. It's been talked about a lot, so I just want to put that out there, but I do want you to say your piece, and we'll see what we can do.
I do appreciate it, and I'm not going to go into detail on everything that's with the district itself.
Okay.
This is mainly just on 2 offices within the county, and that's the tax collector's office and the auditor's office.
Okay.
And to give you the point of view, I didn't get a bunch of copies to give you, but for instance, what's come directly from the auditor's office, when she accepts the budgets and everything, to go back to when we started, for the year of 7/1 of '08 through 6/30 of '09, there was no budget submitted with the paperwork to draw the money from all the users.
Can I just knock you down, because that was brought up, and according to, I believe it was stated that there was a budget.
Which years did you reference? I'm sorry, Mike.
Well, I've got a bunch of them here.
08, 09. I don't know that we researched that year. Mr. Bennett is also in the audience.
This is directly from the paperwork that I received from the auditor's office, and that's what she said, that's what she had that was given to
And
me.
by submitted, do you mean to the users or to the office?
This is what was submitted to the auditor's office, and I got the copies from Karen herself.
I think the way that this would be the most productive, instead of you giving, you know, going on the whole time and then not getting any answers, is maybe when you bring up a point, or like you said, there's no budget, let's give a response, let's make a note of all the things, because we're not gonna have all the answers for you as you stand at the podium. But then, very shortly, you know, in the next few days, we need to address all of those
All
concerns
the concerns.
for you. And if you're not satisfied or still have any other questions, then we need to come back. But I'd like this to be productive for you, so when
And maybe
something
it'd
comes
be
up at the
better-
budget, then we need to make a note of it and then get back to you with the facts.
Okay.
Okay, so as you go, yeah, during the, from here to here,